Hello! Today we're testing whether the top AIs can perform technical analysis as good as any trader. We've lined up 5 of the most popular models: ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, and DeepSeek, and we're giving them the same trading chart. We'll see if they can identify key support and resistance levels, draw technical analysis directly on the chart, and interpret complex indicators like Fibonacci retracements and Bollinger Bands. We'll grade them on accuracy, clarity, and whether their analysis actually makes sense to a human trader.
Here's what I did. I took a clean screenshot of a gold price chart from TradingView. Then I uploaded this screenshot into each AI platform. The prompt was simple.
Look at this chart and identify the key support and resistance levels. Tell me what price zones stand out and explain why.
Now let's see what they did. ChatGPT gave a full breakdown. Resistance at 1.41 to 1.415 and 1.47 to 1.48.
Support at 1.39 to 1.385, 1.37 to 1.365, and 1.353 to 1.35. Pretty solid. It caught the current resistance and identified long-term zones cleanly. Claude was minimal, only flagging resistance at 1.4032 to 1.405 and support near 1.36 to 1.362.
Technically correct, but perhaps a bit too simplistic for a full analysis. Perplexity highlighted resistance 1.41 to 1.42 and 1.45 to 1.48, with support around 1.353 to 1.36. and 1.37 to 1.38. This is a nice balance between precision and range. Grok identified resistance at 1.4 to 1.405, 1.42 to 1.43, and 1.47 to 1.48, with support at 1.35 to 1.36 and 1.38 to 1.385. But its nice round numbers perhaps show a lack of
Precise live reasoning.
And DeepSeek went all in, marking resistance at 1.44 to 1.45, 1.43 to 1.433, and 1.47 to 1.479.
Support at 1.4008 to 1.403, 1.38 to 1.385, and 1.359 to 1.36. It even referenced the Fed high at 1.47924, which shows a stronger awareness of historical context.
Overall, ChatGPT and DeepSeek nailed this round, both precise and contextually aware. Claude was the weakest, while Perplexity and Grok landed somewhere in the middle. Test 2. Can these AIs actually draw on chart? For this one, I used the same chart image from test 1, still unlabeled, but this time I asked them to visually mark what they were describing. The prompt I used was, please draw or annotate directly on this chart to support resistance and trend lines. The goal was to see if they could not only identify the levels, but also visualize them correctly on the chart. ChatGPT returned a clean image with multiple resistance and support lines, each clearly labeled,
plus a diagonal trend line.
It wasn't perfect, but it looked like something you actually see in a trader's notebook. Claude took a more data-driven approach. It generated a detailed, color-coded chart with level zones. Red for resistance at 1.4032 to 1.45. Green for major support around 1.36 to 1.362.
Orange for intermediate support near 1.375 to 1.38.
And even included a purple and blue trend line for the bearish and bullish phases. Visually, it was the most complete,
even if it leaned more PowerPoint than TradingView.
Perplexity, on the other hand, completely missed the mark.
Although the values remained consistent, its visualization was not helpful. Grok couldn't draw directly, but it described exactly how it will annotate the chart, an obvious limitation. And finally, DeepSeek admitted it couldn't draw either, but gave step-by-step plotting instructions like Grok. I took the same chart, but this time I added a couple of technical indicators. The idea here was to see if the AIs could handle a more complex setup, not just naked price action.
The prompt I used was, analyze this chart with the indicators shown. Explain what each one suggests about market direction, momentum, and possible entries or exits. So let's break down how each AI handled it. ChatGPT gave a very detailed response, maybe too detailed. It clearly identified that the fib retracement was drawn from the 1.4792 high to the 1.3739 low, and that price was sitting right on the 61.80% retracement near 1.43, calling it a potential reversal zone. It even aligned that with the upper Bollinger Band, flagging overextension but still recognizing bullish momentum. The analysis was long, but potentially usable from a trading standpoint. Claude was also highly descriptive. It mentioned the moving averages, the Bollinger midline and signal lines, the fib zones, and the Bollinger squeeze, describing how volatility was compressing before a potential breakout. Claude identified the 61.8% fib as a major resistance near 1.427 to 1.45 and predicted two scenarios: a bullish breakout towards 1.42 or a bearish rejection back to 1.38. Overall, very sound technically, but again, like ChatGPT, almost too much text for practical use. Perplexity echoed many of the same points but added some good trading logic. It noted that the price was hugging the upper Bollinger Band, a sign of strong momentum. While warning about potential overbought conditions, it broke the fib levels into clearly entry and exit zones, suggesting short-term traders could face resistance or buy pullbacks near the middle band. Technically accurate, replicating some of the same insights of ChatGPT and Claude, but a more digestible, simplified version. Grok, on the other hand, completely misread the chart. It thought that the overlay was an Ishimoku cloud, not Fibonacci or Bollinger Bands. It gave an in-depth Ishimoku breakdown, which was solid but totally irrelevant to what was on the chart. Finally, DeepSeek gave a completely different type of answer. It interpreted the chart as showing pivot points, a moving average called an 88-period MA, and an unnamed oscillator, none of which were actually on the image. It delivered a structured report, even calling out a bullish divergence. But since none of those indicators existed on this chart, it was basically off topic. So in this round, ChatGPT and Claude were potentially the most competent, both identify Fibonacci and Bollinger Band structure correctly. Perplexity was decent. Grok analyzed the wrong thing, and DeepSeek went off of its own entirely.
So, after 3 rounds, here's what we learned. When it came to spotting key levels, ChatGPT and DeepSeek were the most accurate. Both identify structure clearly and give realistic price zones. On the chart drawing test, Claude produced the most complete visual while ChatGPT had the best trader style markup. Perplexity looked confused, and Grok and DeepSeek were stuck describing things instead of drawing them. And finally, on indicator analysis, ChatGPT and Claude pulled ahead again. Both correctly read the Fibonacci retracement and Bollinger setup, and gave analysis that you could actually trade from. Perplexity was okay but repetitive, while Grok and DeepSeek misread the chart completely. Overall, ChatGPT was the most consistent across all tests. It recognized structure, interpreted indicators correctly, and linked ideas like a real analyst would.